I should probably wait. What time should you go down?
4:15. Okay, is everybody's here? Great. Hold on, guys. Let me fix some stuff right now. Okay. All right. We're ready to get pissed off. We tied against arguably the worst team in the NFL. I think I'd rather have had a loss than a tie. Because it's just ties are stupid. It's first of all that play at the end of this. Matt Pryor completely screwed us on that penalty with the holding, not the holding, false start on the field goal, and then not even attempting a 64-yarder at the very worst. You miss it short. That takes off maybe 5 to 6 seconds off the clock, and then they're returning it. And that wasted even more 5 to 6, 7 seconds off the clock. So if you're short, which I think Elliott, he would have had a chance. But if you're short, you're wasting 10 to 15 seconds off the clock when there's 19 seconds left. What is the point of punting in that situation? I don't know. I don't know. People smarter than me are gonna have to explain that to me because I don't get it. There weren't many bright spots today. Miles Sanders was always a bright spot. He's the best. I said this on the pregame. He is the best player on the Eagles. It's not even close. Carson Wentz is not. Zach Ertz is not. None of the offensive linemen are. It's Miles Sanders. And he didn't get fed the ball enough. You're an 0-2-1 team now, going into a gauntlet of the 49ers, who had 8 starters out today and still hung almost 40 points on the Giants today. Then you got the Steelers, who have probably the defensive player of the year on their defense. And then you have the Ravens, who may have the MVP, who has the reigning MVP on their offense. Then you have the Giants, who aren't as bad as people make them out to be. So, I don't. This is the most lost I've ever been on this team in a long time, and that includes the Chip Kelly days. I don't get it. To yell even more, we're adding in Eric Reese, so one of our writers, who has a better beard than me, and also wants to yell.
I'm just as disappointed as you, man.
This sucks.
Like, you made a great point. I don't know why you don't go for that field goal. I remember Jake Elliott hitting a 62-yarder So maybe there's an opportunity for him to dink that one off the crossbar. That's a chance I'm willing to take, and it goes over. You win by hook or by crook, ugly or not. It's a win. But you gotta all right with the game on the line, and it's just a field goal kick. You have to be better than doing a false start. You have to be better than that. Sit there, sit down. Like sit on your butt for all I care. Like don't move. Like it doesn't matter. It's beyond insanity. It's beyond nerve-wracking. It's beyond frustration.
Right,
excruciating pain doesn't say enough.
Right, to be a professional football player making millions of dollars, and for especially Matt Pryor, who all the talk all offseason, is he the right guard? Is he the starting right guard? Is he this? Is he that? He was the main guy, and then to be that guy on the field goal unit when all you had to do was just wait for the ball to be snapped. You just have to wait. You don't even have crowd noise to ruin the snap count for you. All you have to do is just sit on your fat ass there and wait for the ball to be snapped. And Jake Elliott probably hits that game winner. And you do that on the biggest play of the game to win. It's inexcusable.
And I'll say this: even if 64 yards is discouraging enough where you don't want to try that, you don't punt the ball with 10 seconds left in the game. You play football to win. So even if it's chucking a Hail Mary into the end zone, we've seen that happen before where it succeeded. Now, granted, very, very, very low probability it would happen, especially with the offensive players that we have. But I'm willing to take a shot, and it just screamed we played to tie that game. We didn't play to win. We played to tie that game. And I'm upset more than anything that all of Philadelphia, I was on Twitter throughout the entire game, all of Philadelphia is screaming for a rushing offense. And Carson Wentz played a better game when he was running the ball in a scramble than he was as an actual quarterback today. I don't know what his deal is. He's awful this year. Awful. With a capital.
There's been a lot of awful things about this team this year. And, you had the rushing game there. 175 yards today. But,
yep.
Again, it's back-to-back weeks for Miles Sanders of 95 yards. Not even 100 yards. We haven't had a 100-yard rusher in years. And so, and he averaged 5.3 yards a carry. He was gashing the Bengals defense. Also Wentz, 65 yards rushing. But the fact that you go away from that and Wentz still throws it almost 50 times against the defense that is absolutely horrid against the run. Absolutely horrid against the run. And you give only 18 carries to Sanders, Wentz carries it 9 times. There's 3 carries for Clement and 3 carries for Scott. That's 6 carries, way too many for someone other than Miles Sanders. It's crazy to me how much work other people got outside of Miles Sanders. And I said before in the pregame, Miles Sanders needs at least 25 touches today. He had 22.
Yes.
And it's ridiculous how they're not utilizing their best player. And because of that, because of Doug Peterson's stubbornness in playing Miles Sanders for whatever reason, going into the season, Peterson said, Miles Sanders is the unquestioned bell cow. Great, we saw that today with the carry shares, but your first play out of halftime, it's Corey Clement coming out. What the hell is that? You're on crucial downs on 3rd and 3. You're running Boston Scott up the middle. What is that? Before the season, a lot of us were saying we need a legitimate backup running back to Miles Sanders. And I was of the opinion, and I still am, that Boston Scott and Corey Clement are very complementary pieces. They are not backups. They're pieces you can fit in here and there to fit around Miles Sanders and possibly play them on the same field at the same time. But that you cannot, if Miles Sanders goes down, God forbid, Boston Scott's not a 20-carry guy. Corey Clement's not a 20-carry guy. You're not even 18. Not even Miles Sanders 18 to 20. Not even. They are 10 carries, if even less, rotational backs. And if Miles Sanders goes down, we're seeing Carson Wentz throw it 70 times a game. It's ridiculous.
It's an awful idea for any quarterback in this league, and it's not just Carson Wentz, but it's almost specifically Carson Wentz this season. But for any quarterback in this league, it's an awful idea to throw the ball 40 times. That's never going to be a winning recipe. You have to have a balanced attack, and that's the same for actually a lot of different sports. That's not even limited to football. But the idea that you have a quarterback who, is going to throw 40-ish times every single game and you're expecting to win, you're 0-2 and then you tied. Remarkably, against the same team you've tied against the last time you tied. And it's the definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing week in and week out, and we're getting the same exact results, and we're expecting something different. I don't know what to say outside of what I've the few things I've been saying on Twitter about this entire game. Doug Peterson's play calling it reminds me of, like, dare I say, Chip Kelly. It's not anything extraordinary at all. It's bad.
I wouldn't say that
towns over,
far off.
Well, in a few towns over, you're looking at Nick Foles just revitalize his career in Chicago, and your sitting there going like, as much as I've defended Carson Wentz over the past 3 seasons, I couldn't help today but feel, you know what? Maybe part of me inside it felt like a knife. It was turned because I was like, maybe Foles should have stayed in Philly. I felt that, and it's not a conversation that I want to start because that's one that will never end, and I'm sure it's gonna be tenfold now. But when you see a team down like that and they put up points, and you can't put up points against the Washington football team, you can't put up points against the Bengals, and you surely can't play a concrete game against the Rams, who, by the way, lost today to the Bills. The Bills are 3-0. Like, there's a lot to be desired, and it has nothing to do, by the way, with the defense today. Like, there's that 3rd and 15 sticks defense, which that needs to go. I don't know why Schwartz hasn't learned over the past 2 years that it's an awful scheme for a defense. But besides that, 8 sacks. Darius turning overtime. The defense was on
in and out. I don't know if it's just me or if
no, mine actually showed it was the screen for a second.
But the bits and pieces that I heard, the defensive line came to play. 8 sacks. Barnett showed up, 2 sacks. Graham, 2 sacks. Mills, 2 sacks. And then we had the Josh Sweat and Hargrave showed some promise up there, and Fletcher Cox is alive, ladies and gentlemen. And Darius Slay showed why he was paid the way he was paid. He was incredible today. We still have gone so many games without an interception, but it's the fact that we have someone that can now shut down one side of the field. Like, Tyler Boyd never saw Darius Slay again after he had that pass deflection. Like, it was just Tyler Boyd was picking on Cravon LeBlanc. He was picking on number 47. He doesn't even deserve to have his name said anymore.
Nate Gary might as well be named redacted.
Say his number from now on. He doesn't deserve a name anymore. The fact that coming into the game, number 47 allowed 7 out of 7 completions and out of attempts for 70 yards, or I think it was 6 for 6 for 60 yards, 149 passer rating, and I think after today he's now 10 for 10. It's probably a perfect passer rating on Nate Gary. Sorry, number 47 today. It's it. Like what more? How much longer do we need to have Davion Taylor develop, quote unquote, Sean Bradley waste away on special teams? I saw TJ Edwards play a decent amount today, and he's not the coverage guy. TJ Edwards is not the coverage guy. He's the Mike that should be plugging the holes and not in coverage. He's that prototypical middle linebacker that we've missed since Jordan Hicks. Not even Jordan Hicks. Before that, DeMeco Ryans, because the Jordan Hicks was a little bit of everything. With the DeMeco Ryans that can plug the holes, and then I'm tired. I like the nickel, but I'm tired of overuse, and we need to go back to a base 4-3 defense and get Mike in the middle and have those outside linebackers be the ones that can really spread the field. Because if you have Nate Gerry, number 47, right in the middle of the field, it takes him an hour and a half to realize where the hell he is. Tell him to be just stick on one side of the field as a Sam or a Will. Stay on that side and worry about that instead of trying to be the leader of the defense in the middle and the ball snaps and you're like, okay, where do I go from here? It's ridiculous.
There's the second touchdown to who was it? T. Higgins. He had both touchdowns. The second touchdown to T. Higgins, oh my God, he was so late to even realize that Joe Burrow was looking to that side of the end. Like, all he had to do was follow the quarterback's eyes. It gives you a pretty big context of what he's looking for and what's about to happen. I can understand why he's still on by week 4. Other me shocked. Like, I just won't understand it. But so here's something that I was thinking about that the Eagles should maybe experiment with, and I know it'll be easy to do in his rookie season. But where's Kayvon Wallace on the depth chart?
He's another one. Like, it's like, you keep these rookies on the active roster that they earned it, but then they're wasting away on special teams. Like, I can't wait to see the snap counts tomorrow. But I imagine Kayvon Wallace on defense maybe play 5 at most, 6 at most, and mostly special teams. Like, we pretty much drafted these players this year to only have Rager be the main guy who's now Hurts to be a gadget guy who also got way more snaps than he should get today. Like, why towards the end of the game and you're losing, are you putting Hurts at quarterback with Miles Sanders next to him, and then Wentz is split out wide? What is the point of that? There's
no point in that.
They try to be too cute when it's not even the time to be cute. And when you're playing a team like this and you have a little bit of leverage that you can play with those plays like that, you don't do it. But you're not. We're down by 4. Let's throw this out there and see what happens. No, like if there was at least even in that situation, if you're down by 4 and you have some momentum, then maybe you say, okay, let's try this out. There was no momentum on either side of the ball, defensive or offensive. It was ridiculous, and I don't know like where they go from there. And it goes back to the pregame that we had and the podcast that we had with Brian on Tuesday. It really seems like there's a disconnect between the head coach and the front office, because I feel like after we saw it bubbling since January when Doug Peterson said Mike Groh and Carson Walsh will be back, and then a week later or a few days later, they weren't back. So it's like Doug Peterson wanted his guys back, and Howie and Jeff were like, no, and we're gonna inundate you with 4 different guys, offensive gurus, to help this offense, and now it's shit. Yep.
No, and I think it has everything to do with the offensive mind is only Doug Peterson, where no one's telling him no. He's the end all. He's the beginning and he's the end. He's the alpha and the omega of that offense as far as calling plays and executing things. And I saw this. I believe there was 2 back-to-back screenplays when we were field goal range. There's some why get first down there, except for the fact that you go for screenplay, it doesn't work the first time. Say you do a screenplay immediately after Greg Ward, and it doesn't work that time around. The offense is beyond predictable. And, I mean, going into next week, it's only harder because Jason Peters probably not going to be fully available.
So you have a banged up offensive line now. Even honestly, offensive line without Jason Peters is probably a better offensive line. But that's a debate for another day. But now we're either getting Mailata or Jack Driscoll, which I hope it's Driscoll, but he hasn't had much time at left tackle so far. We're probably getting Jordan Mailata versus Javon Kinlaw and Arik Armstead And I know Nick Bosa's out, and I know Solomon Thomas is out, but that defensive line is very, very deep. And you're getting a defensive guru in Roberts. I think it's Saleh, Saleh, S-A-L-E-H. I don't know how to pronounce it. Who's very good at what he does, and he's the fire that you need in a defensive coordinator. Whereas Jim is just like this all the time.
Yeah, and it's miserable because it's when something goes wrong, he gets irritated about it, or even maybe not, because sometimes he doesn't even get irritated. I've seen him sometimes player, but a lot of times he's just disappointed. He has a disappointed look on his face. There's no want or drive. It looks like there's no expression. There's no emotion to that light the fire underneath the defense. To me, there's a lot of things that I liked about the defensive line today, and there was a few things I liked later in the game from the secondary. The linebacker group is atrocious. That starts with how that also includes Jim Schwartz. But I think if you're going to use Nate Berry as a bad excuse, a horrible excuse as a coverage linebacker, put him on special teams. And honestly, I know Kevon Wallace is a safety. Just use him as
our version of Landon Collins, and he needs to be our version of what Malcolm Jenkins was. But I guess obviously, in a lower role. But Kayvon Wallace can do all the things that Malcolm Jenkins did. He can do all the things that Keanu Neal does in Atlanta, or did, because he's always hurt. And use Marquand Manuel to teach him that, because he has the experience with Neal and Deion Jones. And, we have all these players that mold around the position groups that we have in the positional coaches we have. When I saw the hire of Manuel, I'm like, okay, he converted Keanu Neal from linebacker safety. He's from a legitimate safety to safety linebacker hybrid. He converted Deion Jones. He moved. I think it was Darqueze Dennard, not Dennard. Desmond Trufant. He helped him out, and he moved the corner to safety. I forget who it was, but so he had all this. He had all these tools and experience of doing that with the Falcons defense. That was pretty damn good a few years ago. Not anymore, because they suck now. But that I was like, okay, now look at Kayvon Wallace, who can do those things. Jalen Mills maybe can do those things. We saw 2 sacks from him today. Graham Larnold, he went from corner to safety. Obviously, he didn't play. But we have all these different tools, and you have fast linebackers like they had in Atlanta. I know he's not the defensive coordinator, but Deion Jones. It's time for just Jim to get the fuck out of here and just move Marquand Manuel down. And I guarantee you this defense plays a lot better for someone else, because I feel like they're just tuning out Jim right at this point. You can't be this, I would hope. You can't be this stupid on defense and this unaware of what's going around you if you had faith in your boss. And Jim Schwartz, I feel like he doesn't have his players on his side. I really don't think so. And whatever Jalen Mills wants to say, or Brandon Graham wants to say, he took ownership, and we love that. We got to go out and fight for them. There's the body language and their effort. Maybe the defensive line, Brandon Graham, he showed up. But I feel like the body language and what we see week in and week out to the freaking Bengals. I know Burrow's very good, but still, to the Bengals, on defense, offensive line that's not good. They got gashed by Joe Mixon. This defensive line and this defensive whole, they're not showing up for this guy, and he needs to go.
Well, it's like every single week there's a player that should be such a detriment to the Eagles defense that blows the roof off. It's we made in week 1 Dwayne Haskins. We made him look really good.
And he's been bad. He's been very bad.
I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that he's horrid, because I don't think he is. But he's not what he was in week 1. And it was only 23 points or something like that. It wasn't that many. He was mediocre, and we were even worse somehow. Week 2, Tyler Higbee do anything today? Because I don't think he did. I didn't see much of his stat line there, but he had 3 touchdowns. Then I don't think Boyd is a bad receiver by any means, but he's not over the century mark, and because the kind of receiver, in my opinion, against areas out there, like we have on paper a good team. They underperform every single week in the secondary, and it needs to stop. And it's been like that for honestly the better part of 2 years, and it has everything to do with Jim Schwartz' secondary scheme. And I thought that bringing in Darius Slay, former Jim Schwartz guy, was going to make a difference. It clearly hasn't.
None. We were fooled to see this offseason that all these changes and all it would have led to a good football team. And I think, and I hate to say this because I love the Eagles and I love what they've done, and we won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. I feel like the last few years we've been fortunate of a bad NFC East team and the NFC East division.
Yes, oh yeah.
And I know last year they won 4 straight to win the division, but 3 of those 4 were against the NFC East. And so you say actually all 4 was NFC East actually. So you had the Giants twice, you had the Redskins, and you had the Cowboys, and you beat all 4 of those teams because they're in your division. You're worried you're beating your own bad division there. So how much of it is, because I saw the statistic. I think they're 15-16 or something of that nature against teams outside of their own division or outside of Washington and the Giants the last few years. So if you can't beat teams out of your division, how are you going to win your own division when it comes down to tiebreakers and all that? I just think this division the last few years has been really bad, and the Eagles, who had the only returning head coach and the majority of their staff this year, and that's why I hate Doug Peterson's stupid ass statement of the COVID messed everything up and this and that. You're the only team in the division that had almost everybody on their coaching staff back, players also. The continuity should have still been there, and it was just a stupid ass remark and excuse. And I don't think Doug has confidence in Carson, and I don't think Carson has confidence in Howie and Doug, and I don't think Howie has confidence in Doug, and I don't think Doug has confidence in Howie. And I think it's a whole big thing right now, and we're seeing it unfold. And I said this before on Twitter. I don't like seeing their play today against a bad Bengals defense. I struggle to see a slam dunk win from now until the end of the season. Because I know it's any given Sunday. I get it. And we saw that today with the Bengals and we saw that last year with Miami over us. But next week you get a Niners team that will probably have Jimmy G back. But will probably have George Kittle back. You have the Steelers after that. You have the Ravens after that. You have a Giants team that's not that as bad as people want to say. Then you have the Cowboys, who have a rookie receiver going over 100 yards every week almost. Then you have a bye. Then you have the Giants again. And then later in the season, you have the Packers. You have the Saints. You have the Seahawks. You have the Cardinals, who are very good. And you got the Cowboys again. And you got the Redskins again, or Washington. So I struggle to find a game in there, not even 2 or 3 games in there that I'm like, you know what? They can win that game. They're back in there. It's really, really hard to find that right now.
I agree, and I want to say something. I'm gonna head out to do some work for like Flyers content and things like that. But I had that same exact feeling that you just described. As soon as the Eagles lost to the Washington football team, after knowing that they hadn't lost to them in like the last 3 seasons, right? Roughly, probably even longer.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that game go down the way it did with being up 17-0 and then unanswered points and a loss, there was a big issue, and it wasn't a matter of they choked away that game. There was a root issue with this season, and I mean, last week you had that false hope where it's like, hey, maybe the Eagles can get some of their offense back on track. They're only 5 points out of this game against a Rams offense or Rams defense, whatever. Well, when you see that game today and the defense has 8 sacks and it's against the Bengals who have a poor rushing defense, and you see the Eagles openly ignore rushing the ball and the success that it brought, it's playing to lose. You're playing to lose. You're playing down, and you're not playing down, because if you're playing down to your opponents, you would still be in these games and you wouldn't be blowing leads. You're playing to lose. You're not fixing the wrongs. You're only accepting what you want to have happen, and it's stubborn.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Doug Peterson in his press conference right now said tomorrow he's going to look at that 64-yarder, and then he's going to tell him to figure out whether that was the right call or not. So tomorrow,
that was the wrong call.
Tomorrow he's going to look at the tape and be like, you know what, I should have punted or I should have tried the field goal. What is the point of that comment? Like, first of all, like I get how he was asked probably, but like hi to my daughter who just woke up from that. It's like oh, what is he going to do tomorrow? How's that going? Oh yeah, we should have kicked it. Okay, great. We still tied.
Well, and you know what? Even if tomorrow you realize all of Philadelphia realized that you should have went for it, and exactly like how you said before I got on, it runs off 10 seconds and it doesn't put the Bengals in an opportunity to really get anywhere. So at worst, you tie the game if you miss it, or if you make it, you win the game. Like there's no point in punting the ball. There's none.
And then this makes it even worse. This makes it even worse. He said he considered going for 2 to win the game in regulation. He felt comfortable with the way the offense was playing. So if you feel comfortable enough to go for 2 in regulation, where you could possibly lose if you don't get it.
I don't feel comfortable going for 2. I don't.
But you don't feel comfortable trying to kick a 64-yard field goal with a guy who is 61 yards, 62-yard range? Like,
I feel more comfortable going and missing or, being short on a 64-yard field goal than I do going for 2, based on the way that the offense just couldn't get in sync at any point. The fact that Carson Wentz had 70 yards today, 65. The fact that he had that many yards rushing shows that if there was any time he was going to make a play, it surely was not with his arm. One play that he made, the 2 plays that he made, one, in my opinion, looked like broken coverage, and he found it. And secondly, the one that was actually, I'm happy he found that coverage. I mean, that was wide open. There was others that were just as open that he missed. But the pass that he had in overtime to Zach Ertz, like that was the second really good play. Besides that, it's embarrassing that you don't run the ball. It's embarrassing that you don't get a lot of things in a groove that was clearly there. I mean, Miles Sanders only getting on 3rd and 3 or second and 3, and then you try to pass it. That's clear rushing down. In my opinion, the way the offense was going, it's a clear rushing down.
It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-fuck. It's everything right now, and I just struggle to see what direction other than down this team is going right now, and it's just this team is older. As much as they wanted to focus on youth, still brought Jason Peters back. Still have old defensive linemen. You still have a salary cap that's going to be like negative $100 million next year, close to it. So a lot of changes are coming. We could see the end of Zach Ertz soon because of his contract that's looming. That might force his way out, because of his contract. You might see the end of Deshaun Jackson. Who knows how long he's going to be out today after getting injured again.
Well, Deshaun will be back. And the reason is, as soon as he said it was his hamstring, I was like, oh, that's how it's been for like the majority of the decade. So
if Deshaun Jackson's hamstring is out, that's his bread and butter, his hamstring, because of his speed. If his speed is compromised, he offers nothing else to the Eagles. So what's going to go on? It's just next year we could see a team where Carson Wentz is accounted for 30% of the salary cap because of his contract. If he doesn't move on, who knows how this team is going to look next year? We have a third-year Miles Sanders that will be 1 year away from needing a contract extension. We might have an extended Dallas Goedert, or maybe he'll be in his lame duck year before they extend him. We could have Jack Driscoll at left tackle, Isaac Seumalo. Jason Kelce might retire, so maybe a rookie at center. We have Brandon Brooks maybe coming back from a second Achilles injury, and an older Lane Johnson who had ankle surgery. And then you can look at the defensive line where you have so much money tied up into the defensive tackles, not so much the defensive line as a whole, defensive tackles and Javon Hargrave, Malik Jackson, and Fletcher Cox. And then you have Brandon Graham having an extension who's going to be at, 33, 34 next year. Derek Barnett probably won't be on the team. And so, it's just it's going to be. You'll have
Josh Sweat though.
Josh Sweat is the best. Josh Sweat is well on his way to making my prediction of 10 sacks. Come on, right?
But, no, I really like what I see from Josh Sweat, and I think that's one of the things that will help the cap. But you're right, we do have one of the most expensive defensive lines, if not the most expensive defensive line in football, and it almost forces our hand at wide receiver to go back to like the Todd Pinkston and Freddie Mitchell and James Thrash era, where it's like we need cheap receivers and we don't know what the quality is because Alshon's not going to be here. Djax will not be here. Ertz is probably going, like you said, going to be on the way out because of contract. I can only imagine that we can't afford him. Our secondary is going to be a continuous question mark. Just because we got Slay, great. We need turnovers. We need to see these things. I think Slay was fantastic in coverage in clutch situations. That was great to see. But okay, that's one side of the field. Like linebackers, we don't have a linebacker.
Like that was my point in the pregame also. Like we've seen Jim Schwartz with linebackers like Steven Tillich, Kevin Byard, not Kevin Byard, he's a safety now. We had Nigel Bradham in his prime days. You had Preston Brown in his prime days. Like they had linebackers that were very, very good for Tennessee and for Buffalo and for Detroit. And then we come here and now we're getting guys who played quarterback in high school and then play safety in college trying to play linebackers in the NFL. I don't know where this. I think we're in for a very long season defensively, probably offensively too. But I think the offense gets fixed before the defense does, because I just think these corners, no matter how improved they are with Darius Slay, the linebackers are going to be hanging them out to dry a lot more times than not, because how many times did we see number 47's back of the jersey today because out of either a pass to T. Higgins or a pass to Tyler Boyd, all we see is a replay and it's just number 47 chasing after him. So it's ridiculous.
Hold on. What about and this is just as bad because here we are, talking about Duke Riley. Is he even an option to take out for Nate Gary? Or also in that linebacking group?
Both of them need to go.
Yeah.
Play the rookies. Play T.J. Edwards. Play Sean Bradley. Play Dave Van Taylor. Play Alex Singleton. That's it.
Is there? Yeah. Who's in our practice squad for linebackers? Is there anybody?
I don't think so. We got Joe Osman, defensive end. Joe Osman, defensive end. Casey Toohill played linebacker in college, but he was drafted as an edge rusher.
Right.
That's it.
This is me openly grasping for straws, but what else is there to do? You're 0-2-1. Grasp for all the straws, in my opinion, because that straw you might grasp is probably better than number 47.
Well, I'm going to wrap up with.
All right, man. Nice talking to you.
Thank you for joining. I'm going to go enjoy a salad because that's all I deserve right now is a salad.
You deserve a beer, dude.
The Eagles make me starve myself.
I feel the same. All right, man. Thank you for having me on. And next week, I don't know, pain might continue or we might accidentally get a W. Who knows at this point.
Next week's Sunday Night Football, so it's going to be a long night.
It's going to be a long night, dude. I know.
Yeah.
All right, man. Great. Take care, boss.
Thank you for joining.
Later.
All right, boys and girls, that's it for me. I'm going to go be depressed. But, just to recap the year so far, they faced a team in the first week of the season that had the second number overall pick, and they lost. Last week, they faced a team that was very underachieving. That's a loss that I could live with, kind of, because the Rams' offense is much better than the Washington offense and the Cincinnati offense. And today we tied to the number 1 pick in last year's draft. So they've lost the number 2 pick, and they've tied the number 1 pick. That's the Eagles' 2020 season so far. So on Tuesday, Flipping the Birds is recording again, releasing on Wednesday. We will have someone from 49ers media to join us, like we've had the last 3 weeks with the Washington team, with the Rams, and last week we had someone from the Cincy Jungle. We will release that name once he confirms with me, because he still hasn't confirmed with me. And then we'll get that name out on Twitter. Make sure you're following us. I'm sure you follow the main account anyway, because you're all here. Follow me at Infante54. You see my last name is right there. Add the 54 at the end. Brian, my co-host, is B. Cameron PSN. Liam's Liam Jenkins PSN. Flippin' Birds is Flippin' Birds Pod. All that stuff. So, thanks for joining. Don't black out. The season still has 13 more games, but it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? But right now we're running a marathon with broken knees. But anyways, as always, it's Go Birds.